All right, we've got live coverage going on next week. A lot of very crucial primary and related contests coming up next Tuesday, May 8th, and we're going to be on the air, 8 p.m., however long it takes to get the results from this, including what goes on in West Virginia, and a big debate going on there. Today, caller, editor-in-chief Chris Bedford, a Trump Advisory Board member, Madison Gesiotto, and the Federalist Bre Payton. Now, these three Republican candidates vying for that nomination to challenge, presumably, Senator Joe Manchin. It's not a slam dunk, but is it your sense, Bre, that right now that is perhaps the most vulnerable Democratic hole, regardless of what happens with these gentlemen, that Manchin has an uphill fight in a state that Donald Trump won by 40 points?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been absolutely the case. I mean, recently, Vice President Mike Pence, during a visit to West Virginia, criticized, Manchin for not supporting the GOP tax bill. So I think it's very clear that everyone understands that Joe Manchin is very, very vulnerable in this position there. Madison,
we look at these measures. It seems that, and even when I was talking to Mitch McConnell, I watched a couple of weeks ago, he was convinced that whatever happens in the House, he thinks they can, that is, Republicans, pick up seats in the Senate. Is that doable?
Yes, and I think they will pick up seats, this seat being one of those seats. When we look at West Virginia specifically, President Trump is outrageously popular in that state. And I looked back at every single presidential election going back to Abraham Lincoln, and nobody won the amount of the vote that President Trump did at 68.5%. Abe Lincoln himself only won 68.2% and was the only one even close to President Trump.
How did you know that? That's a little scary in and of itself.
I looked at every single one.
I covered that race.
I looked at every one, Neil.
No, I'm kidding. So, Chris Bedford, you're hearing that, and that what the prevailing wisdom is that Republicans, well, they're going to lose the House. And I always get a little bit leery when I hear things like blue wave and all, because I heard something similar, of course, in the last election. But is it your sense that the media, ourselves included, might be missing something, that there's more support for these tax cuts than appears to be the case, or that there could be a black swan development in a good way for Republicans, let's say a North Korean peace agreement or something to that effect, that we might not be, factoring in?
The pollsters have just been so terrible, Neil, over the last many elections. They haven't known anything. Even the guys who work for the private candidates, like Mitt Romney's top guy, Neil Newhouse, he said that he was going to win. They just haven't had a real hand on the pulse of America and been able to give us accurate results. I think that in the House of Representatives, there are so many red congressmen that can take a hit that they'll probably be able to hold on to that. They're gonna lose colleagues. When they come back in January, there will be less Republicans in the House of Representatives than there were in November. But that's definitely going to happen. But they might be able to still hold on because the pollsters so far have been terrible, and particularly they've been unable to read Donald Trump supporters and Republican supporters across the country.
Bre, on those tax cuts, it's been pretty clear here, and maybe Marco Rubio didn't advance this cause when he himself was criticizing the tax cuts Republicans came up with as not doing enough for individuals. I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm sure the reaction of the White House was, well, thanks a lot, Marco. But is there a sense here and a frustration that they're not resonating to the degree Republicans thought they would?
Yeah, you know what? I think that the Republican establishment is in deep, deep trouble with base voters. Republican voters keep sending these people, the Mitch McConnells, the Marco Rubios, back to Washington. And Planned Parenthood is still being funded and Obamacare is still the law of the land. So, I think there is a lot of ire amongst the base. And several of the candidates in West Virginia have been tapping into that. You have Blankenship, who's been just hitting McConnell every single chance he gets. Even the frontrunner, Congressman Jenkins, refused to say, whether or not he would vote again for Mitch McConnell, a Senate Majority Leader, right? And this is a guy who's been pretty nice to Mitch McConnell all throughout the race. So I think the Republican establishment knows that they're in trouble. They've been reportedly bankrolling this PAC that's based in Arlington, Virginia, called Mountain Families, PAC that's been trying to block Blankenship. So I think we're seeing kind of a mirror image of what happened in Alabama. The Republican establishment knows that they're in trouble. They're trying to ham-fist their way into this primary in order to get a GOP yes man, and I think that that's going to backfire on them. They need to learn their lesson, fulfill their promises, do what they say they're going to do.
Madison, who's more jazzed to get out to the polls? I know that could sometimes be a moving target, but the consensus seems to be always risky, as Chris pointed out. The Democrats are, that they're angrier and they're more inclined to get out there.
Oh, and that's what many are saying, but what I think it's going to come down to is, are we going to push out and put out enough candidates that can inspire that fire within the American people like Donald Trump did? You know, yes, there's a lot of amazing policies on the side of the GOP right now, but we need candidates that are just as amazing as our president was. There's very few people that can get that excitement riled up among people, and I'm hoping we can put more people out for Senate and for House races that are like him.
Should you use Donald Trump on the stump to help you out, Chris? What do you think?
I think they should, but I think they also need to go to some of their accomplishments, Neil. The Republican Party has not done enough. This tax break was huge, but they're not going to be able to do another tax break unless they maintain control of the House and the U.S. Senate. And some people on the conservative side, like Senator Ted Cruz, have been pushing all the different votes they could take in the U.S. Senate that would push Donald Trump's agenda that might potentially get people jazzed up. And for some reason, it seems pretty obvious that Senate leadership right now has no intention of doing any more really sizable action in the U.S. Senate, and they're probably going to go away in August recess without figuring out a spending bill, and then we're going to have a government shutdown right before the election. Huge spending bill will go to the president's desk again.
You got to be careful.
That's not good.
You got to be careful. All right, guys, I want to thank you all very, very much.